why did he lose last time? 2020. Why did he lose?
Oh man. So I'll go first on this one. Okay. So that's such an interesting question. There are, of course, a lot of people who voted for him who say he didn't lose. He didn't lose. That's their belief. And to that, I just say
that's not where I'm going.
No. I understand. Yeah. I'm just saying there are a lot of people who voted him. That's their approach. And I just say to them, they did rig the system, but Joe Biden is president, so it doesn't really matter, right? So that's where I come from it, from the perspective of I'm dealing with the reality today. Okay, why did he lose? He lost because other than all the dirty stuff the Democrats did, which we could talk about for a whole show on its own, he was basically missing in action for about 6 weeks at the beginning of the BLM riots. And this all happened on Trump's watch. There was about a period there from the beginning of June, right after George Floyd, till middle of July, where the president was effectively not really doing anything. And I think that left a really bad taste in the mouths of a lot of voters who had come out for him. And also on COVID, which, that becomes very complicated because it's like once in a century pandemic or whatever. He didn't fire Fauci. He didn't do as much as I think he could have done.
You sound like a spokesperson for DeSantis. That's what you
but that's true though. These are what have I said that's not true?
The conversation about Fauci, but I guess let me ask the question in a different way. Would he have won? Say COVID never happens.
He wins a landslide.
Landslide. Okay.
Yes.
Why though? Why does he win by landslide?
Because this I've spent a ton of time looking at all the data on this. And so first of all, let's start with the numbers. He came so close, and I don't think we talk about how close it was. And when I say what would you ask, you think Biden would beat Trump? I don't know. I think we'll be up till 3 a.m. I think we'll be up till 4 a.m. I think we'll be waiting in 2024 for weeks to find out what's going to happen in Arizona. What are the, when is the fire alarms going to stop going off in Fulton County? Because it's going to be right on the margins, just like 16 was.
Yeah.
20,000, and I say this on the show, but I think it's so important. If 20,000 people change their vote, 20,000, that's one NBA arena in the entire country out of 156 million people who vote. In Wisconsin, in Georgia, and in Arizona, Trump's president. Okay? So
with COVID.
Even with COVID going on. Right?
But I'm talking without COVID.
Without COVID, he wins a landslide.
How bad of a landslide?
I mean, to the extent that you can win a landslide. I mean, I think he would have won Pennsylvania. I think he would have won Michigan. I think he would have won every state.
He would have flipped some additional states.
And I think he may have flipped Minnesota.
Perfect.
I mean, so I think it would have not been.
And here's my
question.
By
the way, that's why your question was so hard, just to be fair, because it was once it was like the asteroid hits the Earth scenario.
But let me tell you why I'm asking this question, because, it's so hard for all of us. You guys are smart. There's plenty of smart guys out there that are presenting their argument, right? Here's what I think. There's all of us, we have a stubborn side and we have an open-minded side. Some of us have a bigger stubborn side than the other one. Some of us have a bigger open-minded side than the other one. It's good when it's a good balance, but I think you should still stick to your core convictions, yet be open-minded. I think that's a good host.
Yeah.
I think that's somebody
100%.
that you listen to and you're able to. So, okay. So if he would have won by a landslide, if COVID never happened, and he had already fired a shit ton of people, so for that point to say, well, so many people just didn't want to. You can criticize me. Yeah, I agree. You can say this because everything had to be perfect. Like under his watch, it's as if he can never make a mistake. I agree. That's a weakness. But he still would have won a landslide. Even he did. Yeah. Okay, so what else did he do? The economy was great. This was great. So borders, no war, no ISIS. ISIS used to be a topic of discussion. If we did podcasts right now 6 years ago, all we're talking about is ISIS, ISIS, ISIS. We don't talk about ISIS. If you were to go search how many times you talk about ISIS, you don't talk about it. Okay, so how about we go to Afghanistan and we talk about Ukraine, Russia? Would that have happened? The trade to China, how he bullied them, he got them in their place. Hey, Huawei lady CFO is in Canada, is doing deals with Iran. Huawei can no longer do business in the U.S., 33% stock. So there was so many of these things that was going on that you felt like, okay, we can't be bullied. I kind of like this. And there's no war. Economy's good. I'm growing. I'm doing business. Now, we had Giuliani on. I don't know what it was. Last week, we had a live podcast. It was Giuliani and Dave Rubin. It was great because Rubin is more DeSantis and Giuliani is going to be loyal to Trump, which makes it a very good show where we can kind of go back and forth. And Giuliani's, well, let me tell you, what happened with the rigged election. I'm like, Yeah, it's just not attractive, to
not gonna
me
work.
because when my kids complain about losing that the other person cheated, you don't get anything from me that weekend. That's not attractive to me. I've lost because others cheated, and get stronger, get better, do any of that stuff that you got to be doing. So, for me, the thing, and I'll turn it over to you, if he would have won with a landslide, with no COVID, landslide, there is no COVID today, zero. COVID is gone. Okay, should he not win by a landslide today because America would be okay with his policies? How much has changed between the landslide, take out COVID, than today?
So this is going to annoy me to say, but I think it's true and it's proven by the data. So I'm not happy with this reality, but I think it is a reality. I would gladly vote for Donald Trump again, and I think he'd be a very good president again. But everything that you're setting up for this historical counterfactual, you also have to put in there, what does the whole January 6th thing do? Not for me, because I think the media is completely overplayed it and they call it an insurrection, and I know what an insurrection looks like. I was in the CIA. It wasn't an insurrection. But they do this because they think it's effective with moderates and independent. Well, it was effective in 2022. I hate to. That's what you look at the candidates who didn't win, who should have won, and they were all focused in on the election, and they were too tied to that aspect of Trumpism.
He has no credibility today. They did Russia for 3 years, and they stopped talking about it after Durham came out, and there's silence. So
I agree with you, but I'm saying I'm telling you, the January 6th thing is going to make it harder to win independence the next time around, because there's this fatigue with people. They're like, so the media is going to do the propaganda, the craziness they do.
Let me flip the question on you. So, what are independents tired of Biden with? What are independents sick of Biden with today?
Let me flip it on you and just ask this. Flip it back and forth. 81, let's assume that the voting is accurate. 81 million people voted against Donald Trump.
Sure.
They did not vote for Joe Biden. We could drive around anywhere in South Florida and find the Biden voters. None of them like Joe Biden.
There were no Biden signs on anybody's lawn. There was no Biden bumper stickers.
If Joe Biden had a rally,
it was the anti-Trump vote.
Joe Biden had a rally in Miami, nobody is showing up. So my question, this is what we were hitting on earlier, that I think everybody out there, if you objectively look at it, is we live in a world where people make up their mind. And I appreciate what you're saying. You have a core set of values, but you're willing to look at the data and change your mind. That's not most people.
Sure.
Those 81 million people have convinced themselves on some level that Trump is Hitler, right? So in order for Trump to win, you have to believe one of two things. You asked the question, how many people are actually persuadable? Let's say 156 million people voted. Maybe 1 million people are actually willing to change their votes. I like
basically the same people that voted for Bush, that voted for Obama, that ended up voting for Trump, that ended going to.
There's like 1 million.
You're fighting over
quote
this
up
tiny
independence, the sliver.
Yeah.
If you're going to make, I do believe in 20 without COVID, Trump wins big. But I think that the situation has changed in 24 because all of those people have now come in and they have put themselves in the camp of, hey, I am of the opinion that Donald Trump is wrong. So you have to get those people to change their mind. Or you have to convince me, and maybe you could, that way less people are going to vote in 24 because it's not going to be as tumultuous of an election. And I don't buy that.
I'll put this out there because I've said this on the radio show, Patrick.
I'm going to challenge you guys as an amateur.
No, go for it.
We love it. A challenge.
If they rolled out Joe Biden drooling on himself with a blanket across his knees, every Democrat that you and I know who voted for him the last time around will come out and vote for him again without exception because
FDR
they vote.
Style.
They vote.
Look at Fetterman. Fetterman is the perfect example of this.
They vote for the party machinery.
Yeah.
They do not vote
Fetterman
for the candidate.
Can't even speak.
They do not care.
He won by 4 points in one of the biggest toss-up
And you know
states.
why? By the way, we're gonna lose.
Rehab facility.
We're gonna lose Pennsylvania again. I have a couple friends who have run for Congress there and Senate there, and we're gonna lose Pennsylvania again because the Democrats are better organized, better funded, and pay more attention to how to win in that state. Whereas we have a lot of big voices who are saying, oh, but we should all vote on Election Day. The Democrats in Pennsylvania and other places are how do we maximize our efficiency in getting the most votes counted legally or illegally, if they can get away with it, whatever, it doesn't matter. They're just trying to win. All right.
So let's look at this. What's changed? So we have all agreed here, including yourself, if COVID doesn't happen, Trump wins by a landslide. We've all agreed on that. That Trump's going to win.
Electoral landslide, by the way, doesn't mean
it's
that
not,
like
he might not have won the popular vote, but he would have won more states.
Of course, he would be president. Is what we're saying. Totally get it. So fine. So. And we all agree that COVID is not the main issue, top 5 issue today, not even top 10 issue today, as it was 2 years ago.
No,
3 years
thank
ago.
God.
There should be, by the way, a reckoning.
I'm glad we don't have
totally
masks on in
but
here.
yeah.
There's not. Yeah. So that main issue that we were all obsessed with for 2.5 years, or let me rephrase it, we were forced to be obsessed with for 2.5 years, that's gone. That main issue is gone. No problem. Let's see what has changed in the last 3 years on top of what you just said. You're saying, well, you have to realize the January 6th, the this, the that. No problem. In the last 3 years, a guy named Elon Musk bought Twitter. In the last 3 years, a guy named Joe Rogan, who was a pot-smoking, psychedelics, ayahuasca, UFC guy that was willing to vote for Bernie Sanders, says, to save things, you got to vote Republican.
Yeah.
No one in a million years would have guessed he would say that. Elon Musk would have said that. And now they own it. Now Rumble's creating a ton of momentum. And on top of that, let's see what else has changed. We didn't have this shit with transgender stuff a few years ago, okay? So let me get this straight. You talk about moms. How many moms have daughters? Whether they're Republican or Democrats, 50% of it, let's just use the number 50%. Every other sex that's born is a girl. Okay. How many daughters, are sitting there talking to mom and say, Mom, but I can't beat him. I don't know how to beat him. Okay. We didn't have that. Now it's front and center everywhere. It's okay. Let him beat it because if they identify, they can do this. Moms are sitting there, Democrats, Republicans, saying, I'm sorry, man. I was a Democrat, Bill Clinton Democrat. I'm even Obama Democrat. This shit doesn't make any sense. I'm not a Democrat if I have to subscribe to this. This is out of control. Let me continue.
This is me that you're describing, except I'm a dude.
Yeah, so I'm going to continue, and you got 3 boys. Imagine the mom with a girl, right? So I got 2 boys, 2 girls. You're thinking, dude, you ain't going to do that and embarrass my daughter as a freaking guy. Get the hell out of here.
Yep.
What are you talking about? What happened to protecting women? That creates rage, right? And I'm not willing to allow you to bully my daughter. No, it doesn't matter politically. I'm still daughter over politics. I believe moms are daughter over politics. Fine, let's continue. This Dylan Mulvaney stuff that's going on, even more stuff. Education, you're trying to teach my kids about gay, whatever, 1st grade, 2nd grade, 3rd grade, kind of weird. Okay, let's give the Roe v. Wade to the other side, which has changed. That's massive. I do believe that is massive that we've had in the last. I think January 6th, people are like, listen, I get it. Yes, a year ago, I don't think people are going to care 6 months from now. I don't think they're going to care 12 months from now. So where I'm going with this is the following. I have a whole different view with DeSantis. I think DeSantis is a stud of a guy, and I think DeSantis needs a different marketing team. And my criticism for DeSantis is not policies. My criticism for DeSantis is more marketing than it's anything else. So for me, when I sit there and I think about that, I say, okay, you say a lot has changed, but I think a lot has changed to favor him, not to hurt him. I think a lot of people that wouldn't have voted for him 3 years ago are sitting there saying, dude, I'm not going to lie to you, man. I can't stand that freaking guy. But let me tell you, this Hillary Ronan lady who's in District 9 of San Francisco board who just 2 years ago said, hear me out. I am about defunding the police. And now she's crying, talking. Nobody showed up. They're not putting the funds in. We need more cops here. No shit, Sherlock. And she just got off of Twitter yesterday because now you realize the amount of hypocrisy that people, even in San Francisco, Sarah Foster comes out and says, what the hell are you talking about? These are liberal politicians. As a liberal myself, she's saying, these are the policies. That shit we didn't have 3 years ago. So to me, all I'm saying is, I'm not saying you're right or you're wrong. All I'm saying is none of us know yet fully what's really going to be the turnout. But I don't think it's that camp where they're like, well, I just don't think he's going to beat Biden. I just don't think he's going to beat Biden. I don't think we all know yet.
So a few thoughts that came to mind when you're
Sure.
talking about this additional perspective. One is I shared the sense that January 6th was a nothing burger in terms of the way people would vote until the midterms that we just had. And then looking at the data for who came out and who didn't, there were a lot of college-educated white voters, specifically, often independents, but even some sort of soft Republicans who wouldn't come out for candidates in Arizona and Pennsylvania and places we needed to win that were, January 6th and Trump, I think, are kind of obviously very tied together. So that was what the data showed there. So I feel like I was wrong on that. We were making jokes about it. We're like, they're having these hearings. It's so stupid. There were people taking photos. I'm not looking at it for, it's so, I can't believe in Trump and everything else. I'm just saying they ran this game plan. I think it worked pretty well from the last time. I'm worried it would work for them again in the national. Whether that's true or not, by the way, I agree with you. No one can predict the future, and anybody who says they can is living in a fantasy. The data right now also, and the polling, the problem with the polling is in 2022, and we got caught on the wrong side of this, unfortunately. I think everybody did. We thought it was going to be a much better election for Republicans than it was. Polling is obviously a little bit sketchy, but right now, all the polling pretty consistently shows Donald Trump losing in a head-to-head to Joe Biden, whereas it doesn't show that with Ron DeSantis. So I think there's something there. Again, it's not, it doesn't prove the.
So let's play that card.
Sure.
So let's buy the polls, okay? Which obviously polls historically have always been right. We have to trust the polls. So, but let's play that game with these polls. No problem. If they're right, and you're the Democrat, why the hell are you getting in the way of your enemy? Let him win.
You mean?
Let me explain.
Trump.
Like, if you think these polls are right, why have this Alvin guy go out there and, hey, let's go do this, and because he did this, and let's go do that, and because he did that, and let's go. No. Hey, Mr. Democratic strategist, polls, you guys are so great at it. You think Biden's going to beat him head on? No problem. Get out of his way.
So I think, to your point, I think the strategy is they know that the charges help him in the Republican primary and they hurt him in the general. Mm-hmm. So I think the chess move here is the charges make it more likely that Trump is the opposition.
I hear people saying that.
I think that's true. And by the way, I loved and agreed with everything that you were just saying.
Yeah.
That was me. I voted for Obama in 2008 and 2012. For much of my life, before all the Democrats went insane, I was a persuadable voter. Right? I look at the logic. I look at the data. Buck was reading George Will when he was 12 years old.
Yep.
And
William F. Buckley, wearing my boat shoes.
Yeah.
You've
I've
described
been the
yourself as
hardcore the whole time.
Radical moderate.
I was a radical moderate for much of my career. But, Elon Musk has shared this meme, and I think it, I don't know, you guys have it where it shows you, if you'll pull it up for people who have not seen it, it kind of perfectly epitomizes my political evolution. I've always been kind of middle of the road, rational. I'm persuadable, right? Hey, you make a rational, logical argument, I'll buy into it. Democrats have gone fully insane, which is why you're going to love the book that I've got coming out in August, because it's all about, I'm super fired up. I would hammer home if I could. This idea that you can have a fucking dude decide he's a girl, sit out for a year, and then he becomes a women's champion is batshit insane, right? I think there are lots of Democrats have become insane.
What's the meme you want him to pull up?
Where it shows a stick figure standing on the political spectrum. Mm-hmm. And if you look at it, it's hey, here was me in 2008, and you might just be a little bit left of center. And then the Democrats have run so far left.
Rob, you had it a minute ago.
They've run so far left wing.
That's it. That's the one.
That's it. And if you zoom in on this, there you go. 2008, there's me. That's me. I'm a little bit left of center, maybe, whatever. And then 2012, and then now I'm a radical, Buck sees it. I'm a right-wing extremist. I'm a conspiracy theorist. I'm a crazy man, and I haven't really changed. The country's gone insane.
And I also think that
Well, who does that benefit, though? So who does that benefit? For when you say that, a lot of people agree with that. Dude, Musk would never come out and say vote Republican. So how much influence does Musk have? How much influence does Rogan have? So think about this. Let's actually process this together. 8175. Okay? 8175. Now, we both know who Rogan and Musk would get behind.
Yep.
We both know who it is. And it's DeSantis. It's not Trump. Okay?
But I do think they would vote Trump over Biden.
I agree.
Yeah.
If it does come down to that, their number one is DeSantis over Trump. We can all agree on that. It's very obvious. Hey, I believe the last age for you to run for office, 69 years old. We all remember all that too. Okay, fine. We agree.
By the way, Rupert Murdoch would be in that camp too. right? Like he's basically said DeSantis.
So Schwartzman. So's a lot of different guys that the money guys. There's a lot of guys that are in that camp right now. Okay, fine. So 81-75. So the day comes, debate August, Fox is over, say, boom, we have to pick and choose who it is. It's Trump. Okay? So if it's Trump, we know if it's DeSantis, what's going to happen? Schwartzman's going to get behind. This guy's going to be behind. Musk is going to get. They're going to campaign for him. The Rogan DeSantis podcast is going to be massive. Okay? Hopefully, if DeSantis have a marketing team kind of teach him how to connect with the audience, because the one he did with Pierce was a flop. Okay? And his book didn't do that well. I read the book. I love the book. But I said, how come other people are not feeling the same way about the book, right? So then, Trump is the candidate. Musk and Rogan have a choice where they have to choose between Trump or Biden.
Yep.
We both know whether they want to or not, they're probably going to go Trump.
Yep.
Not because of Trump, but they're going to say, we're doing the same vote that people did in 2020. We're doing that strategy, which is what? Anything but Biden. Okay? Perfect. How much influence you think the richest man in America and the number one podcaster in the world has?
Not enough to switch the election.
What do you think? I'm actually curious to know what your
honestly, I mean, so you've got to. Why do they come to mind, and why are they so important right now?
What do you think the number is?
What do you mean?
That they could swing?
Not very many.
Give me a number. What do you think it is?
I mean, in the total of the entire U.S. election, I mean, not enough to even win a single U.S. state.
100,000.
You think that's small?
Oh,
I think of the 156 million people who, and by the way, 156 million people who have already voted, right?
You think it's 100,000 swing with those two?
Because you have to convince people that they're wrong.
Yeah, and the other part of this is that we're leaving out.
Don't want to admit.
We're leaving out. I refer to it as the apparatus, specifically because of the Soviet connection. But the Democrat apparatus in this country, we're talking about Elon, you're talking about, okay, what about Zuckerberg? What about Bezos? What about Soros? What about, I mean, go down the list. What about CBS News? What about,
they were there in 16 and Trump beat those guys.
Now that was a very specific set of circumstances. I was actually a right-wing commentator at CNN when they still had those in 2015, 2016. So I saw the evolution there. They completely misplayed how to. They were running Trump live on CNN. They gave him billions of dollars of free media because they thought he was such a joke, he was such a clown that it amused their audience, gave them great numbers, and he was going to lose.
So they've been wrong before strategically.
Look, they could be wrong again, but I'm just saying what they did in 2016, they didn't do in 2020, and they wouldn't do again, which is allow Trump to harness. People forget. They initially used fake news as really as an attack on Trump supporters. They were believing fake news about the Russia stuff on Facebook. That percolated. Then Trump turned around and said, no. It's not about believing some internet post. CNN is fake news. He was able to do this jujitsu against the entire media apparatus that it's just, they learned the lesson, unfortunately, in 2020, which is why they did all the suppression, all the things they did. So, yeah, we've got our guys who are trying to help. I think Elon is doing more for democracy and free speech in America than almost any other person you can think of. But there's so much arrayed against. And when you look at the way they can even quantify this stuff, even like CBS, you talk about like the senior citizens watching cable news. CBS News still gets like 5 million people watching a night. And it is Democrat propaganda.
They've had 4 years, though. They've had 4 years. That's not a change, though.
Oh, I'm not saying
they've had
it's
4
different.
years. All I'm saying is the change of what an Elon and Rogan were 3 years ago versus what they are today. And there's a lot of guys like that in the marketplace. There's not just those two. I mean, collectively, there's hundreds of guys like that in the comedy space, in the sports world, in the,
You're preaching my book because my argument is, find things that 70% of people agree with and slam the Democrats on them all day. Dudes deciding to be girls and kick people's ass. The fact that I've been arguing this. If I were Trump, I would go balls to the wall on defending comedians, right? The idea that you could be offended by a joke is total bullshit to me, right? The entire purpose of comedy is to push the bounds of acceptable discourse. The idea that a comedian that Kevin Hart can't host the Oscars, because he made a joke about a gay person, or that Dave Chappelle can't say this because it's offensive to transgender, like whatever. The goal of comedy is to ridicule everyone evenly. And if Trump could lean into that, if DeSantis could lean into that, find these things that 70% of people agree with and hammer them over and over and over again, then I think you can start to move things a little bit.
To be fair, I wasn't really, because you pointed out, you kept saying it's not different. Okay, but for example, the move even of the big donors to DeSantis instead of Trump, right? A lot of that is just because there's a little more hesitation, a little more, I don't know, because of January 6th for some of those people. I wish it were not true. I think it shouldn't be true, but that is true right now.
So if you like this clip and you want to watch another one, click right here. And if you want to watch the entire podcast, click right here.